Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin today's session, I will make the following announcement. Due to the continuing threat to public health from COVID-19 and the Delta variant, City Council is currently meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft's Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instructions for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance, and members that are in attendance will please indicate that you're present and maybe a word or two to make sure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Yes, Mr. President. Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning, I am present. Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues, and the viewing public.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues.
Good morning, Councilman.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues in Philadelphia. Present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning, Philadelphia. I'm here.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the City of Philadelphia. Looking forward to another good council session.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan.
Good morning, Council President, and good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Sending prayers out to all the families who have lost loved ones to senseless gun violence.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning. Good morning, Prez, colleagues. Thank you for all your cards, texts, calls, prayers. Our family really appreciates it.
Good morning. Good morning. We're there with you.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning, Councilman.
Councilman O'Neill.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues, and to Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues. This is Hispanic Heritage Month and Puerto Rican Week. Thank you all for celebrating with us.
Good.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues, and our thoughts and prayers are still with Councilmember Jones.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Present.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
Okay, good morning to all. We've established a quorum and we're going to get started. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes Rabbi Goldman of the B'nai Abraham Shabbat. He is here today as the guest of Councilman Squilla. I would ask all members and guests to please bow your head for the invocation. Rabbi.
Council President, honored members of the Philadelphia City Council, and my dear friend, Councilman Mark Squilla, thank you for inviting me this morning to share a few words of prayer and blessing. Our Father in heaven, creator and master of the universe, at the dawn of civilization, as related in the Bible in the Holy Book of Genesis, you, Almighty God, issued 7 universal laws, which came to be known as the 7 Noahide laws. 1, to worship you alone, not to serve idols. 2, never to blaspheme your holy name. 3, not to murder. 4, not to commit adultery or any other form of immorality. 5, not to steal, lie, or cheat. 6, not to be cruel to any living creature. And 7, that every society be governed by just laws which are based in the recognition and acknowledgement of you, God, as the sovereign ruler of all people and nations. The centrality of morality and ethical values as the basis of a society has been recognized by the founding fathers of this country, as expressed in the statement on our national currency, "In God we trust," asserting that God is not only the creator of the world, but a being in whom we trust. And therefore it's a responsibility and indeed a privilege to incorporate this concept as an integral part of the legislative process. The Jewish community is now celebrating the holiday of Sukkot. It's also known as the Feast of Tabernacles, and it celebrates the gathering of the harvest and commemorates the miraculous protection God provided our ancestors when they left their slavery in Egypt. And we celebrate this holiday by dwelling in temporary booths known as a sukkah. We leave our homes for this entire week, essentially living in a transient structure and recognizing how vulnerable we are, exposed to the elements, and spending a week in this transient structure of the sukkah. When we reflect on the challenges that we're currently facing as a city, the pandemic, gun violence, and indeed as a nation, we pray that God give us the strength, the courage, and the clarity to confront these challenges and overcome them by working together, by recognizing the importance of faith, our belief in a master of the universe who has a master plan. And we are privileged to partner with God in improving the world and making it a better place for our communities. We are inspired by your leadership, honors members of council. Almighty God, may it be your will that you bless them, all who work with them, with good health, with much happiness, and tremendous success in their important endeavors, now and always. And let us all say, Amen.
Rabbi, thank you so much for those inspiring words. Really appreciate your spiritual guidance this morning. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Chair, I think Councilwoman Jim is in.
Yes, good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Let the record reflect that Councilwoman Kim is also present. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Friday, September 17, 2021, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the journal of the meeting of Friday, September 17th, 2021 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably seconded that the journal of the meeting of Friday, September 17, 2021 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and the journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Chair thanks the Councilwoman. And we have a special order of business, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning certain legislative matters that may arise during the course of today's session of council and that were not listed on the calendar circulated prior to today's session. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman, you're on mute, Councilwoman.
Mr. President, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that any of the following matters, if considered today, may be added to the agenda for this session of council and as required by law, subsequently published on an amended agenda after the consideration of those matters. Resolutions authorizing hearings, amendments to bills on first reading, the reconsideration of a bill vetoed by or recalled from the mayor, resolutions taking substantive action to be voted on in this session, a motion to withdraw a bill or resolution that is not on the calendar, and a motion placing a bill or resolution on or returning a bill or resolution from the suspension calendar that is not listed on today's calendar. The purpose of this motion is to provide the public with notice concerning possible actions by council that arose too late to be included on the calendar that was published prior to today's session.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the legislative matters stated by Councilwoman Parker may be added to the agenda for today should those matters arise during the course of this session of council. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. And the motion is approved. And our next order of business is communications. And the chair recognizes Mr. Decker. Would you please read the messages from the mayor and any other communication that you may have in your possession?
From the mayor to the president and members of the council of the city of Philadelphia, I am transmitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 1st Councilmanic District, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2201 through 29 East William Street, 2037 East William Street, 8 East William Street, 2039 East William Street, 2040 East William Street, 2042 East William Street, 2044 East William Street, 2047 East William Street, 2050 East William Street, 2052 East William Street, 2056 East William Street, 2058 East William Street, 2060 East William Street, 2062 East William Street, 2066 East William Street, 2068 East William Street, 2306 Collins Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 3rd Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District. And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 7th Councilmanic District. And an ordinance amending Chapter 9-1000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Trades and Chapter 9-3000 entitled Sheet Metal Technician to create a license requirement for mechanical system contractors and to modify licensing requirements applicable to sheet metal systems technicians, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. And by way of a reminder, we're asking that all resolutions, including privileged resolutions, be placed on the final passes calendar for the next session of council, unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide an appropriate opportunity for public comment. I would like to thank you very much in advance for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, would you please read the titles of the legislation that is being offered today by the members?
Councilwoman Parker offers 3 bills on behalf of Council President Clark, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 9-1000 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Trades and Chapter 9-3000 entitled Sheet Metal Technician to create a license requirement for mechanical system contractors and to modify licensing requirements applicable to sheet metal systems technicians. And an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 20th Street, Arch Street, Cuthbert Street, and 21st Street. And an ordinance amending Section 14502 of the Philadelphia Code entitled CTR Center City Overlay District by amending certain height regulations and creating bulk and massing controls within the Benjamin Franklin Parkway area.
Those 3 bills will be referred to committee.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers 1 bill and 2 resolutions on behalf of Council President Clark, entitled an ordinance renaming and designating the property commonly referred to as the 11th and Venango Playground, located at 3600 North 11th Street, as the William Moore Reed Memorial Park in the city of Philadelphia.
For the committee.
And a resolution also naming the 2300 block of Ridge Avenue between 23rd Street and 24th Street as Harold Malcolm McCoy Way.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution also naming the 1800 block of North 23rd Street from West Burke Street to West Montgomery Avenue as Helen Brown Way.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Heenan offers one bill and one resolution entitled an ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Germania Street, Arundel Avenue, Delaware Avenue, and Linden Avenue.
For the committee.
And a resolution honoring Venkat Balamuri for his incredible leadership and contributions to the health and well-being of Philadelphians throughout the COVID-19 pandemic.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Jones offers one resolution authorizing City Council's Committee on Public Safety to hold hearings examining ways to create curriculum and degree programs within Pennsylvania's historically black colleges and universities, Cheney University and Lincoln University, to become feeders of recruitment to the Philadelphia Police Department with the goal of diversifying our police force.
Next week's calendar.
That's authorizing a hearing, Mr. President.
Oh, that's all. Okay, I'm sorry. That shall be on today's calendar.
Councilman Johnson offers one bill and three resolutions entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of South 13th Street and Oregon Avenue.
For the committee.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on the Environment to conduct hearings to examine flooding risks, impacts, and mitigation options in Eastwick, and other vulnerable Southwest Philadelphia communities.
Today's calendar.
And a resolution also naming the 2300 block of South 21st Street, Ronald R. Donatucci Way.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution also naming the 2000 block of Christian Street, John Vander Peer Way.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Green offers two resolutions entitled a resolution authorizing the Committee on Law and Government to hold hearings regarding the implications of a ranked choice voting system for Philadelphia.
Today's calendar.
And a resolution declaring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the city of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Gauthier offers one resolution entitled a resolution designating September as International Underground Railroad Month in Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Thomas offers two resolutions entitled a resolution authorizing City Council's Committees on Children and Youth to hold hearings examining out-of-school time programs and funding from the 2021 summer targeted at improving safety and positive life outcomes for Philadelphia's young people.
Today's calendar.
And a resolution honoring and congratulating Champion of the Week and Community College of Philadelphia alumni Anais Barnes for her scientific research and her valuable discoveries of a rare plant and bee species.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman Squilla offers one bill and two resolutions entitled an ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Wildey Street and Hancock Street, Wildey Street and Marlborough Street, Salmon Street and Columbia Avenue, Montgomery Avenue and Wildey Street.
For the committee.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2201 through 29, 2037, 2038, 2039, 2040, 2042, 2044, 2047, 2050, 2052, 2056, 2058, 2060, 2062, 2066, 2068, and 2068 East William Street, and 2306 Collins Street, located in the 1st Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers one resolution, also naming the 3900 block of North 17th Street in front of Gratz High School in Huntington Park, Rasheed Wallace Road.
Next week's calendar.
Councilman O offers three resolutions. On behalf of Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson, a resolution celebrating and remembering United States Coast Guard hero and National Football League legend Emlyn Tunnell on the occasion of the United States Coast Guard ship and building dedications in his honor. Mr. President, Councilman O would like to be recognized for a motion on this resolution.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. And let me say what an honor I have received from my colleague, Councilman Catherine Gilmore Richardson. This is her cousin, born in Bryn Mawr, grew up in Philadelphia, the first African American to be inducted into Professional Football Hall of Fame in 1967, awarded, decorated World War II veteran who rescued 2 lives, including one after a torpedo attack. What an incredible gentleman. Mr. President, I move to suspend the rules of council so as to permit consideration of this resolution on today's final passage calendar.
Mr. President, I want to defer to our colleague, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. I second the motion.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and the motion is granted. It shall be on today's final passage calendar.
Councilman O offers a resolution honoring the life of civic leader and former Philadelphia Police Chief Inspector Anthony J. Wong.
It should be on next week's calendar.
And a resolution recognizing October 2021 as the 40th Annual Polish American Heritage Month in the city of Philadelphia.
Next week's calendar.
Mr. President, there are no other bills or resolutions being offered today by the members.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Appreciate that. And our next order of business is reports from committees. And the chair recognizes Councilman Jones for a report from the Committee on Public Safety. Councilman, you're on mute.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Public Safety offers 2 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Please read the report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Public Safety, to which is referred Bill number 210635, entitled An Ordinance Amending Title 17 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Traffic Code, to require the maintenance and reporting of certain information related to vehicle stops. And Bill number 210636, entitled An Ordinance Amending Title 12 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Traffic Code, to clarify the appropriate methods and circumstances of enforcement of traffic violations, in order to provide for the fair and transparent administration of the traffic violations, prevent racial disparities, and protect public safety. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit first reading of this bill today. Bills numbers 210635 and 210636.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bills number 210635, 210636. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. And these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar today. Our next order of business is the consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just reported from committee with the suspension of the rules have deemed to have had its first reading, and those bills will be placed on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion concerning the resolution that are on our final pass and bills on our final passage calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the following resolutions on the final passage calendar today. Mr. President, they are resolution numbers 210694, 210697, 210701, 210704, 210706, 210707, 210708, 210709, 210710, 210711, 210712, 21713, 21714, 21715, 21716, 21718, 210720, 210721, 21722, 21723, and 21724.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded that the rules of council be suspended to permit the use of a consent agenda to consider the resolutions just read by Councilwoman Parker. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries, and we will consider the resolution consent agenda shortly. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar.
Thank you again, Mr. President. In addition to the resolutions being considered on the consent agenda, the following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210696, 210699, and 210474A. All other bills and resolutions are being held, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Councilwoman. Before we consider the bills and resolutions today, we will take a brief 5 to 10 minute recess to give our technology professionals some time to connect the speakers we have for today's public comment session. We're going to take a brief break. Thank you.
Anyhow, so since this thing is new, I have to ask. So I know that the four.
Mr. Decker.
Mr. Decker, you good? Thank you. Thank you for your patience as we connect with our technology professionals. We're going to start our public comment session. So now that everyone is connected to the meeting, and before considering the resolutions and bills we have before us today, we're going to consider our public comment session. Our public comment session must concern matters in the second reading and final passes calendars for possible action at a session of council. A speaker on any of those matters must sign up in order to testify. You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, your phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation, and add your name to the list. We will then telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Under ideal circumstances, we will have 3 minutes to speak, and today, given the relatively low volume of individuals, we will give those individuals 3 minutes. But in order to be fair to all those that are wishing to speak, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. So once invited to the meeting and asked to begin your testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. I also reserve the right to limit the number of speakers where repetitious comments are being made on the same matter, and to limit the scope of the testimony to only certain items on the agenda during the emergency, which could affect callbacks for public comment at the meeting. So please be aware that the public meeting is being recorded, and because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in this meeting, you are agreeing and consenting to being recorded. I would now ask Mr. Decker to please read the name of our first speaker.
The first speaker is Chingerai Kumani, commenting on 210709.
Good morning. State your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
Greetings, esteemed council persons. My name is Dr. Chingerai Kumani, and I come before you today as a Black man, a father, and a husband, a proud voting citizen of Philadelphia, and a professor at Rutgers University. To be honest, when I was first invited to speak on a resolution to take the slavery loophole out of the 13th Amendment, I was surprised that in 2021, this would even have to be a debate. What could the counter argument possibly be? During Reconstruction, this poisonous clause was used to stop the unfolding processes of Black freedom that were necessary for full democracy. Today, there's no data supporting the idea that forced prison labor makes anyone safer, and no ethical argument that it rehabilitates anyone. So I found the issue to be very strange, low-hanging fruit. Nevertheless, I'm glad we're discussing this. Today, I invite all of us to be students of history, lest we repeat its mistakes, continue its oppressions, or fail to recognize key moments of possibility. History speaks to us with a clear lesson. Nothing is fixed, and freedom is always possible. In 1796, a Black enslaved woman named Ona Judge understood this when she freed herself from George Washington right here in Philadelphia. But it's not enough to recognize her. It's our turn. On that fateful Sunday, when Richard Allen and Absalom Jones led African Americans in protest out of St. George's Methodist Church and held freedom conventions before the Civil War, they understood that nothing is fixed and freedom is always possible. But it's not enough to look to their examples. It's our turn. Now, as much criticism as City Council receives, as they should in a democracy, I'm pleased to say that the legacy of freedom is with us on our City Council. When a Black woman from North Philly, or a Korean American former teacher, or a Black brother from North Philly, or even a man descended from Italian immigrants says, even though I come from poverty, even though I don't look like the leader that our founders envisioned, I too can govern because nothing is fixed and freedom is always a possibility. But of course, the real work is not winning elections, it's governing in favor of justice. And this resolution is not purely symbolic. We've heard about the 2.3 million incarcerated people, but we don't hear enough about the 900,000 people who are forced to work. This resolution points out that they are not protected by minimum wage and workplace safety laws that help to keep other Americans safe on the job. States like Nebraska, Utah, and Colorado have taken steps to close their slavery loopholes, and it's time for cities like Philadelphia to step up. In a city like Philadelphia, where the Constitution was born, I can think of no more important work for a diverse city council to do than take a knife and cut the cancer of slavery out of the body of this democracy. Not to make America great again, but to lay the groundwork for the U.S. to experience a freedom it has never felt before. Thank you for the opportunity to offer my comments.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Pietro Stovich, commenting on 210709.
Good morning. I'll state your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Pietro Stovich, and thank you very much for hearing my testimony today. I'm expressing support for City Council passing the resolution to urge Congress to pass the abolition amendment that would disallow forced labor or involuntary servitude to continue in U.S. prisons as punishment for crime and removing the last remnants of slavery from the U.S. Constitution. In Pennsylvania prisons, wages are less than $1 per hour, implying that the labor of incarcerated people is not worth payment. All the while, prison owners continue to maximize profits and keep the cost of operation low for the jurisdictions that fund them, contributing to the growth of the $8 billion detention industry and paving the way for the U.S. to have the world's largest prison population, nearly 2.3 million Americans in 2020. It is also a known fact that companies like Walmart, AT&T, Whole Foods, and Victoria's Secret have used incarcerated populations for their business operations. The so-called slavery cause of the 13th Amendment is racist in origin as well as in practice. Its origins can be traced back to Reconstruction, and it was perpetrated by racist policies like Jim Crow laws, the war on drugs, and three strikes laws, which dramatically expanded the U.S. prison population from 1970 to the over 2 million that it is today, making it the largest in the world. In the U.S., mass incarceration fuels the separation of families and upends the strong community bonds of already marginalized Black and Brown communities. By allowing the practice of forced labor in prisons, we continue to perpetuate the traumas of slavery rooted in the dehumanization of people of color. Today, 97% of incarcerated people in American prisons have never stood trial, and many were coerced into plea deals for nonviolent offenses. Denying incarcerated people their right to fair labor practices and forcing them to work against their will not only strips them of their dignity, but makes it increasingly difficult for them to re-enter society upon release, especially given that many will face structural barriers and discrimination in finding paid work in the traditional labor market. For these reasons, I'm asking leaders in Philadelphia to urge Congress.
That is not the correct password. Please re-enter your password now. If you have entered the wrong mailbox number and would like to exit the system, please press star.
Okay.
Please enter your password.
Mass incarceration.
Go ahead and continue. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Please enter your password.
Is everybody muted, or is that, ma'am, is that your?
Sorry you're having trouble. Try again. Goodbye.
Able to hear me?
You on? Go ahead.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
can you hear me?
30 seconds, please. Sorry. Go ahead, 30 seconds.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I was just saying today, 97% of incarcerated people in American prisons have never stood trial, and many were coerced into plea deals for nonviolent offenses. Denying incarcerated people their right to fair labor practices and forcing them to work against their will not only strips them of their dignity, but makes it increasingly difficult for them to enter society upon release. For these reasons, I'm asking leaders of Philadelphia to urge Congress to pass the abolition amendment and end slavery for all people in the United States. This is a critical step in ending the exploitation of incarcerated people, stopping the marginalization of poor and working class people of color, and dismantling mass incarceration in the United States. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Linda Bell, commenting on 210474A.
Good morning. Just state your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Linda Bell, and as a CPI alum, a native Philadelphian born and raised with 5 generations vested in the fabric and culture that is Philadelphia, I support the following bills and resolutions: 210-396, 210-434, 210-696, 210-709-210-718. I further support 210-697 if indeed Councilmember Gem is urging the Pennsylvania House of Representatives to reject House Bill 1532, which aims to prohibit instruction on the history of racial oppression and an examination of how racism functions in our law, policy, and society. If that is not her intent, then I am opposed. I am, however, opposed to 210-474A. As I join ranks with those who spoke against it previously, this ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code and others like it, granting bonuses and related changes for higher density in areas that are already densely populated, will not alleviate the poverty, crime, and homelessness it is promoted to do. In fact, the exact opposite is being experienced in various parts of the city where these bonuses have been allowed. The erection of these rooftop dwellings and multi-rental units promote a cultural detachment from existing neighbors, creating a transient privileged community as dictated by its market rate price tag, cocooning the commercial and transportation corridors where many native Philadelphians already reside and use. Thus driving the cost of living up by increasing taxes and fares that will be inevitable when SEPTA completes their rebranding to attract this demographic. All the while pushing an already oppressed population deeper into an impoverished state. The bullying, privileged attitude of some of these new neighbors have already reared its ugly head and created tension in an already volatile city. A timeout is needed on this type of ordinance until an unbiased citizen review board can assess and report on the immediate and long-term effects it will have on existing neighborhoods as it pertains to their sustainability and growth. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Susan Nam, commenting on 210-474A and 210-697.
Good morning. I'll state your name for the record. Please proceed with your testimony. Ms. Nam?
Yes.
Please just state your name and proceed with your testimony.
Okay, I'm here to oppose Bill 210-474A and also Bill number 210-697. I just want to be in agreement with my colleague Linda Bell for 210-474A. But regarding 210-697, I'm going to be speaking as a mother of 3 young children, also serving on the advisory council at Athletic Rec, specifically working with the after-school program for the past 7 years. It's puzzling to me the thought of re-implementing the shames of our country after everything we fought through and won, from segregation to the Civil Rights Act. I don't know why we would continue to live as victims of these past grievances rather than victors of them. Collegiate-level Marxist-found ideologies have no place in our schools and in the minds of our young scholars. Simply put, critical race theory continues to point out our differences rather than celebrating our cultures while staying united in our humanity. Rather, these energies need to be fully poured into redeeming our poor literacy rate in Philadelphia, which is only 32% of third graders can read at their grade level. These are our future citizens that will be writing the necessary legislation that will continue to protect our freedoms in 20, 30 years based on proficient reading and writing, critical thinking skills, and compassion and empathy for others, not their expertise on critical race theory. Supreme Court Justice Clarence was most recently quoted lamenting our race-obsessed world. We're proudly sitting in a room of one of the most diverse city council bodies in our country. Critical race theory is ironic at best. The more we stay focused on implementing race means less focus on the hard issues that are actually affecting our children in real time, like the poor literacy rate. We cannot blame this inexcusable statistic on anyone but ourselves as a city. I would never credit a child's success and victory centered around an invisible white boogeyman, but rather their own individual will and character. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. I'm seeing on my screen number 42 has a hand raised. That's all this registration. Councilwoman, Kim, is that you?
Yes, Council President, I can wait until the end of public comment.
Can you wait? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right,
I
now.
can wait till the end of public comment.
I got you. Okay. Thank you. Mr. Decker?
The next speaker is Michael Cord, commenting on 210709.
Thank you. Good morning. I'll state your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony. Mr. Cord? You with us? Mr. Cord?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now. Yeah, just state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Cord, C-O-A-R-D. I am an attorney and a college professor of history. Good morning, Mr. President. I'll just quickly summarize a letter I submitted so that I don't take up too much time. It goes like this. Dear President Clark and Council Member at Large Brooks, I respectfully submit this written statement in connection with my scheduled testimony for today, September 23, to enthusiastically support resolution number 210709, which was introduced by Council Member at Large Brooks. That historically important resolution, quote, urges the U.S. Congress to pass Joint Resolution 21, known as the Abolition Amendment, to strike the slavery clause from the 13th Amendment and end the loophole in the U.S. Constitution that allows forced labor to continue in United States prisons as a punishment for crime, unquote. Councilmember at Large Brooks should be publicly commended for officially taking the initiative in Philadelphia, which, by the way, was the nation's first official capital pursuant to the Federal Residence Act of 1790. And she's doing this to right a historically racist wrong that has existed for an incredible 156 years since 1865. I also submitted, Mr. President, as part of my letter and my testimony, an article I wrote on December 8, 2020 in the Philadelphia Tribune. And I point out that the 13th Amendment must itself be amended because due to a cowardly compromise, the victorious slavery-opposing patriotic North allowed the defeated slavery-loving traitorous South to insert language that created and continues to create and promote racist and exploitative mass incarceration. Mr. President, I'll just wrap this up in 30 seconds by saying that we need to understand the history of the 13th Amendment. It actually states in part, quote, slavery as a punishment for crime shall exist in the United States, unquote. In other words, slavery is legalized by the U.S. Constitution. And finally, Mr. President, I'll say this, which people need to understand. We always have to go to the root of the problem. This language, this slavery created and promoting language that was inserted in the 13th Amendment was done by the traitorous South in particular. And here's what I write, and I'll wrap it up at this point, Mr. President. At the end of my letter, I write the following. I should mention, as pointed out in that article, the tricky language of the 13th Amendment was co-authored in Congress by racist traitors, including 1, the former Confederate Vice President, 2, 4 former Confederate generals, 3, 5 former Confederate colonels, 4, 6 former Confederate cabinet members, and finally 5, 58 former Confederate Congress members. So what we have is a document that was written 156 years ago in primary part by Confederate traitors. 2021 is high time to end this. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, thank you. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate you.
The next speaker is Drew Miller, commenting on 210474A.
Good morning.
Good morning, Council.
Please proceed.
Good morning. Good morning, Council. My name is Drew Miller. I'm a constituent in the 18th Ward and a volunteer in the River Wards L&I Coalition. I first want to thank the Rabbi for the invocation earlier, as well as those speaking in support of resolutions 210709 and 210696. Now, I'm here today to speak and to ask you to oppose Bill 210474A until you as City Council pass a Neighbors' Bill of Rights and ensure that it becomes law in Philadelphia. Since myself and others spoke to you last Friday about this bill, I've been reminded how urgently this is needed. Not only will a Neighbors' Bill of Rights benefit adjacent neighbors by protecting their rights while ensuring that all parties involved know and respect those rights, but this document will also protect developers and contractors from surprise complications when a project is ongoing. Time is money, after all. If a neighbor's rights are part of the project before the work begins, developers and contractors will benefit from the lack of unnecessary conflict that often arises when neighbors' rights are not accommodated in a development project from the beginning. The majority of conflicts that I see in my volunteer work could easily be avoided with appropriate planning and communication. We all want our city to grow and become more vibrant, but the current development process encourages unnecessary conflict to the detriment of all parties involved by not clarifying to neighbors nor developers or contractors the need to accommodate neighbors' rights in the process. Your constituents need you. Please oppose Bill 210474A until you pass a Neighbors' Bill of Rights into law in Philly to help the development process be a benefit to our community and not a detriment to our community. Thank you for your time and for your work.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate it.
The next speaker is Jared Cooper, commenting on 210709.
Did you say Jared Cooper?
Yes. Yes.
Hello,
station.
thank you.
Go ahead, please.
Hello, my name is Jared Cooper. I'm speaking on regards to Resolution 210709. Thank you, everybody, for this opportunity. Good morning, City Council. Okay, so hello, my name is Jared Cooper, formerly incarcerated youth in Philadelphia, who is now a youth leader and is looking to change and better Philadelphia as a whole community. In regards to bills and resolutions being brought in front of us today, I am in full support of passing Resolution 210709. Being incarcerated is already taking men and women's freedom away. If we are not forced, we are free, and if we are free, we have more opportunity for growth. I believe removing these forced labor laws will allow for a restorative refreshment in a system in which serves us justice. To continue on, what is going on in our Philadelphia prisons is almost a mirror image to slave labor. Men and women are being brainwashed into doing hard labor for unfair pay with no incentives. If people are working, I believe they should always be working towards something. From my personal experience within the Philadelphia prisons, inmates are almost immediately listed for any and all positions without say. Full circle to the idea of individuals feeling brainwashed within these facilities, incarcerated individuals may fear further consequence and mistreatment from correctional officers or other prison workers for denying labor. All in all, I truly believe implementing this resolution will lead to new and more positive opportunity for individuals. Thank you again for allowing me to share my testimony.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate you.
There are no other speakers in the public comment list, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our public comment session for today, and we will now consider today's resolution consent agenda. I would ask the clerk to please read the titles of all the resolutions on the consent agenda. Oh, you know what? Councilwoman Gim, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Council President. And I do truly appreciate the opportunity just to clarify a few things because Bill number 210697 is on the consent agenda. And I want to thank my colleagues for allowing it to remain as such. And in part, I just do want to clarify what the bill says and why we need to clarify a few things. It very clearly says that it calls upon the Pennsylvania House of Representatives to reject House Bill 1532, which aims to intrude into the curriculum that is laid out in the school code to prohibit instruction on selective areas of the history of racial oppression and the examination of how racism functions in our law, policy, and society. There is no question that much of the fear around critical race theory that has been raised not just here in our council body through public comment, but in fact nationally, has been related to deep-rooted approaches towards racism, the exclusion traditionally, the fight for inclusion within curriculum in particular. As a former teacher, and I know that we have, I think, 4 other former teachers on our city council body, we know how important curriculum is. And it is quite surprising that a state legislature that has left $7 billion in a rainy day fund and in unallocated funds when schools desperately cry out for literacy coaches, for restoration of school libraries, for functioning public school buildings, have taken the time to actually lay out their grievances and want to write bills about what happens in classrooms, when the most important thing that needs to happen in classrooms is the vibrancy of young people's learning, a truth-telling that has long been denied to many communities and families, and the full recognition that this nation, not only through the classroom, but in particular through its reckoning of its original sin of enslavement, of racism, of white supremacy, of which my colleague, Councilmember Brooks, and others of us have supported through her resolution, has still relevance today. This resolution has its roots, obviously, in the transformational work of Nicole Hannah-Jones and the 1619 Project. It has its roots in Henry Louis Gates, one of the earliest folks who have identified critical race theory. But I want to be clear that this is saying that the state legislature is one of 27 states that have introduced bills or taken actions this year to restrict teaching or limit conversations on racism in particular, sexism as well. Some states, such as Tennessee, have passed laws prohibiting the instruction of topics of any relation to racial equity, including penalizing school districts in the millions of dollars who are found in violation of the law, as well as teachers. This work is relevant at this time. It is important for us to uplift the communities of teaching, of history, of truth-telling, of the full vibrancy of our nation, its contributions, of the full range of citizens over history, but also its sins, also the mistakes that have been made, the reckoning that is happening as Councilmember Brooks still has to talk about constitutional responsibilities that have not been righted and have not been made clear. So I hope that brings a little bit of clarity to this issue, and that, you know, our urgency, if we truly care about what happens in our schools, our state legislature ought to be funding them responsibly and fairly, rather than focusing in particular, Black studies, Black teachers, Black school systems, and those that are trying to uplift despite what our state legislature has done. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay.
Excuse me, Council President.
Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to acknowledge our support Councilwoman Helen Gim's resolution, and it's really about making sure that the history that our children are taught is diverse and inclusive. And so for somebody to say this, it's about a white boogeyman, it's not about a white boogeyman, it's about telling the truth in the history of how America was created, but most importantly, the role that African Americans have played in the development of this country. And there's nothing for anyone to be afraid about. There's nothing for anyone to be scared about. But most importantly, it's about really justice and true justice and equality. When we talk about the historical education system here in America. And so thank you very much, Councilwoman Gim. I have seen this movement. I have been paying very, very close attention to it. And for anyone that will denounce teaching diversity and inclusivity in a school system to children, right, I just want to say shame on them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman.
Excuse me, Mr. President, Sherelle Parker, point of information.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Council President. And I want to commend Councilwoman Brooks for her efforts and thank Council Member Gim and Council Member Johnson for their comments. I also, for the benefit of Philadelphia, and this is extremely important, Mr. President, when we are talking about issues in an historical context, want to remind the people of our great city that this is a battle that has roots that go back to people, Cecil B. Moore and Dave Richardson and others standing around the wall of Girard College. Dave Richardson, Dr. Carolyn Holmes, Diane Partee, they were the former chairs of the African American Studies Department within the school district of Philadelphia. African American people, Black people, standing up, leading efforts about teaching their culture and their history within the school district in which they were a minority, but their stories, they were a majority, but their stories were in the minority. So I always want to lift up, because this is not a new argument, no new saviors, inclusive, and we need everyone to be engaged, but we always, Mr. President, want to make sure that we pay homage to those people who engaged in this battle, in this fight, before it became a sexy thing to do. Thank you so very much, Mr. President, and colleagues, thank you so very much for your patience. This was on the consent agenda, in an effort for us to move forward, but I agree with Councilmember Gim and Councilmember Johnson that it did deserve to be acknowledged in a very significant way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Okay, anybody else? Okay.
I have Council President, just a brief clarification. And I also...
I just want to say for the record, I didn't want to get into this, but if there are issues that there needs to be speeches, it would be preferable that people not have it on the consent agenda. Purpose of the consent agenda is the non-controversial things that everybody's going to be supportive and we can move it along. But, I'm a stickler for process and structure in terms of the council session. But so this in the future, if you have something that we want to have speeches on, please don't put it on the consent agenda. Thank you. Councilwoman, you were getting ready to say something.
Yes, and normally what I wanted to do, and I just definitely thank my colleagues for the clarification, and especially to Councilmember Johnson and Parker for reminding us of Philadelphia's particular role around this. It was meant mostly to clarify misunderstandings that were being made by the public. So again, the State Bill 1532 would apply not only to K-12 schools, but any school that receives state funding. So any college and university, could be banned from the teaching of certain forms of curriculum that would be selectively decided. And that the penalty is actually that if any private citizen feels that there's a violation of the law, they can file a complaint with the Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the Attorney General must investigate. And that if there is a violation that is found by the Attorney General, the funding for the remainder of the year and all of the following year will be withheld. This is a serious bill, and that's in part why I believe it is on the consent agenda, belongs on the consent agenda, and just wanted to make sure that was made clear. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Council President.
I will have to say, again, if there's going to be speeches, anticipated speeches and debate on the bill, please do not put it on the consent agenda. Thank you. Mr. Decker, I'm going to ask you again, the Chief Clerk, to please read the titles of all the resolutions on the consent agenda. After each title is read, any member may object to the inclusion of the resolution on the resolution consent agenda. Upon such an objection and without debate, the resolution will be immediately removed from the resolution consent agenda and placed on today's regular final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Resolution number 210694, entitled "A Resolution Recognizing Joseph T. Ashdale Jr., Chairman, and Karen M. Wrigley, OD, upon their retirement from the Board of the Philadelphia Parking Authority." And resolution number 210697, entitled "A Resolution Denouncing Attacks on Efforts to Address Systemic Racism in the United States and urging the Pennsylvania House of Representatives to reject House Bill 1532, which aims to prohibit instruction on the history of racial oppression and the examination of how racism functions in our law, policy, and society. And resolution number 210701, entitled a resolution recognizing September 2021 as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, to raise awareness about the importance of screening for and treatment of prostate cancer, to encourage prostate cancer research, and to encourage Philadelphians to take an active role in the fight to end prostate cancer. And resolution number 210704, entitled a resolution supporting the National Minority Business Development Agency and recognizing October 4 through October 8, 2021 as Philadelphia Minority Enterprise Development Med Week, which provides critical information, resources, opportunities, and inspiration to the minority business community. And resolution number 210706, entitled a resolution initiating action to continue a business improvement district encompassing certain existing and future hotel properties within the boundaries of the city of Philadelphia, known as the Philadelphia Hospitality Improvement Levy District, and to continue the Philadelphia Hospitality Improvement Levy District Corporation as the Neighborhood Improvement District Management Association of the district. And resolution number 210707, entitled a resolution calling upon the Congress of the United States to enact the Able Age Adjustment Act, offered by Senator Bob Casey, which would increase from 26 to 46 the age threshold at which individuals with disabilities could save into tax-favored accounts to pay for disability-related expenses. And resolution number 210708, entitled a resolution honoring and congratulating Philly Counts for their indispensable contribution to the 2020 census and their service to the residents of the city of Philadelphia. And resolution number 210709, entitled a resolution urging the U.S. Congress to pass Joint Resolution 21, known as the Abolition Amendment, to strike the slavery clause from the 13th Amendment and then the loophole in the U.S. Constitution that allows forced labor to continue in United States prisons as a punishment for crime. Resolution number 210710, entitled a resolution honoring the Preservation Alliance for Greater Philadelphia on the occasion of its 25th anniversary. And resolution number 210711, entitled a resolution honoring and congratulating the champion of the week, Imhotep Charter Girls Basketball Teams, for winning their Philadelphia Public League Championship title games for the 2020 through 2021 season. And resolution number 210712, entitled a resolution recognizing and honoring the 9/11 Del Val, Delaware Valley Youth Athletic Association girls on the occasion of them winning the Pennsylvania Little League State Championships in Williamsport, PA. And resolution number 210713, entitled a resolution recognizing and honoring the long-standing tradition of Saints Newman Goretti versus Southern Thanksgiving Day game, which has been a Thanksgiving Day staple in South Philadelphia for over 80 years. And resolution number 210714, entitled a resolution observing the 20th anniversary of the attacks on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon on September 11, 2001. And resolution number 210715, entitled a resolution observing Diaper Need Awareness Week from September 27, 2021 to October 3, 2021. And resolution number 210716, entitled a resolution also naming the 1100 block of Chelton Avenue, George James Way, to recognize and honor the impact that George James, a local boxing trainer, had on his community. And resolution number 210718, entitled a resolution rededicating Allen Lane in West Mount Airy to the memory of Richard Allen, in honor of his contributions to racial justice in Philadelphia and beyond. And resolution number 210720, entitled a resolution recognizing September 2021 as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Philadelphia in honor of childhood cancer patients, caregivers, survivors, and those children who have succumbed to the disease. And resolution number 210721, entitled a resolution recognizing October 2021 as Filipino American History Month in the city of Philadelphia. And resolution number 210722, entitled a resolution recognizing and honoring the 211th anniversary of Mexico's Independence Day. And resolution number 210723, entitled a resolution recognizing September as National Recovery Month in Philadelphia and celebrating the 20th annual PRO-ACT recovery walks to promote recovery and work to end the stigma surrounding drug and alcohol addiction. And resolution number 210724, entitled a resolution recognizing, honoring, and celebrating the Philadelphia Second Alarmers on the occasion of their 100th anniversary.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Parker for a motion to adopt each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda.
Need a second?
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that each of the resolutions on the consent agenda be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and each of the resolutions on the resolution consent agenda has been adopted. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the regular second reading and final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-696.
A resolution calling on Congress to pass the Build Back Better Act to provide resources to Philadelphia and cities like it to combat climate change while creating jobs and fostering local economic development.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-699.
A resolution honoring Gregory Bucarino for his dedication to community safety.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of bill number 210-474A.
An ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising certain provisions of Section 14702 entitled Floor Area, Height, and Housing Unit Density Bonuses, and by making related changes.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Canona Sanchez for an amendment to bill number 210-474A.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I move for the amendment, we will send out another email clarifying the work of this bill. I think there's a lot of confusions about what this bill is and it isn't. It is a significant improvement on the mixed income bonus with accommodations to many council districts. I am surely in support of any Bill of Rights for residents. Last year, we introduced a bill that we're working through the L&I Commissioner now that will list nearby neighbors and the insurance required by contractors. We're moving along with that bill. We've been working with the administration, and therefore I think we'll address some of the issues that have arisen around some of these troublesome demolitions, the last one being literally around the corner from my house. So we will update everyone. I'm happy to answer any questions around what this is and it isn't. I think your bill, your charter change request for the L&I, for the zoning board is a step in that direction. And of course, your own overlays around mixed income housing. So with that, I thank you, Mr. President. And I'd like to offer an amendment to bill number 210-474A. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to members of council, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and bill number 210-474A has been amended, and bill number 210-474A as amended will be placed on the final passage calendar for our next session of council. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
I do, Mr. President. Resolution authorizing City Council's Committee on Public Safety to hold hearings examining ways to create curriculum and degree programs within Pennsylvania's historically Black colleges and universities, Cheyney University and Lincoln University, to become feeders of recruitment to the Philadelphia Police Department with the goal of diversifying our police force, introduced by Councilman Jones.
Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. And before I move for its adoption, I want to thank all of the committee members on public safety who have listened to hours of testimony on how to do criminal justice reform. And one of the things that has come loud and clear across in testimony is that the diversity of our department, police department, is of critical concern. We believe that this resolution, this type of recruitment of a undergrad curriculum coming out of our historic colleges and universities, those black colleges will be able to be a feeder group for the Philadelphia Police Force, and I move for its adoption.
Second.
Thanks. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on the Environment to conduct hearings to examine flooding risks, impacts, and mitigation options in Eastwick and other vulnerable Southwest Philadelphia communities, introduced by Councilman Johnson.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. Before I move to the adoption of the resolution, I just want to acknowledge the work of my colleague, Councilman Gilmore Richardson, who will be hosting a press conference today to make sure that the committee that you formed, Council President, regarding the infrastructure and the Build Back Better movement that's taking place as relates to infrastructure here in the city of Philadelphia, that we focus on also the issue of environmental justice and green infrastructure. The area of Eastwick, Southwest Philadelphia, has been flooding repeatedly, and so this hearing will make sure that we make this issue a key priority as it relates to infrastructure support for supporting those residents that live inside the area. Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Law and Government to hold hearings regarding the implications of a ranked choice voting system for Philadelphia, introduced by Councilman Green.
Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. This year, the city of New York had their first ranked choice voting election. And I think it's important that we always look at different types of opportunities and innovations regarding elections and finding ways that we can increase voter participation and citizen participation in our elections. I know Senator Williams has been having conversations regarding this issue in the Senate, and we're going to be working collectively together to inform citizens about this concept so we can have additional dialogue here in the city of Philadelphia. And if that were to occur, that legislation would need to happen at the state level. And so this resolution is an opportunity to start that conversation, and I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. President. Sorry.
It's been probably second. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing City Council's Committee on Children and Youth to hold hearings examining out-of-school time programs and funding from the 2021 summer targeted at improving safety and positive life outcomes for Philadelphia's young people, introduced by Councilman Thomas.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution celebrating and remembering United States Coast Guard hero and National Football League legend Emlyn Tunnell on the occasion of the United States Coast Guard ship and building dedications in his honor, introduced by Councilman O on behalf of Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Defer to
Second.
council member. Yes.
Thank you.
It's moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. We will move to our speeches, but I want to say prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I will note for the record at this time that we will use the chat feature available in Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for that purpose. With that said, speeches on behalf of the minority. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Brooks.
Thank you, Council President. Last week, I introduced a resolution urging Congress to pass an amendment that would strike the slavery clause from the 13th Amendment, which allows forced labor to continue in the U.S. prisons as punishment for crime. I want to commend the criminal legal reform advocates across the city and many formerly incarcerated people who have spoken out on this issue and elevate the importance of protecting the rights and dignities of all citizens, including those that are currently behind bars. COVID-19 has shown a light like we've never seen before on the substandard, inhumane conditions in our prisons and the crisis of mass incarceration in our city and state. Dismantling mass incarceration will take a concerted attention and effort from all of us. And as a Black woman who comes from a working class community where families are broken apart, lives are destroyed because of over-incarceration, I know well the widespread impacts the prison industrial complex has had on families in neighborhoods like mine. And we can't decarcerate unless we eliminate the financial incentives to keep Black and brown, working class, poor people in prison. There should be no loopholes to abolishing slavery. And it's time we ended forced labor in all forms and gave our incarcerated neighbors the labor protections that all community members are owed. No one in Pennsylvania should work for 38 cents an hour. No corporation should profit off of and encourage prison labor to make up for labor shortages or increase their profit margins. No incarcerated person should be forced to pay $15 an hour just to video chat with a loved one during a pandemic and then be forced to work the next day, nothing, 38 cents an hour. And I appreciate the support of my council colleagues on this issue that is close to my heart. And I hope that we as a council body can continue to push this issue and advocate for our incarcerated neighbors. Thank you so much, Council President, and to all of my colleagues.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, first, I wanted to thank our colleague and the only veteran serving here in Philadelphia City Council, Councilmember O, for introducing the resolution about the United States Coast Guard hero and NFL legend, Emlen Tunnell. As Councilmember O stated, Emlen led a distinguished career that included rescuing his shipmates from flames during a torpedo attack in 1944 and rescuing another shipmate who fell into the sea in 1946. And after his service to our country, Emlen was the first Black player to play for the New York Giants. He played 14 seasons in the NFL as a defensive halfback and safety for the New York Giants, and eventually he played at the behest of Vince Lombardi for the Green Bay Packers. In 1967, Emlen was the first African American to be elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He led a distinguished life and career. He even authored a book called The Footsteps of a Giant, where he chronicled his life and his career. Emlen, like so many other African-American males, particularly in my family, died very young in 1975, but he left a tremendous legacy for all of us to cherish. So on this upcoming Saturday, the United States Coast Guard will name their Strength and Conditioning Center at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in Connecticut after Emlen Tunnell in recognition of his life and of his career. And in addition to that, Mr. President, the United States Coast Guard will name a fast response cutter after Emlen here in the city of Philadelphia down at Penn's Landing in October. So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the United States to all the celebrations that lie ahead. And secondly, Mr. President, I wanted to take the opportunity to share with you that I was humbled and honored to, along with 36 other dynamic, incredible professional women, become a member of the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated Pennsylvania chapter. I follow in the footsteps of Pennsylvania chapter members like charter members Marion B. Tasco, Audrey Johnson Jason Thornton, Joanne Bell, and the late, great Augusta Gussie Clark, who also served in this august body. And other members include my political mother and mentor, our former colleague, Councilmember Blondell Reynolds Brown, our Madam Majority Leader, Sherelle L. Parker, our 8th District Council member, Councilwoman Cindy Bass, and our current leadership team in Latifah K. Fields, Naisha Chapman, Wilhelmina Moore, and Teresa Lamore Redmond. For all of you out there who may not be familiar with the coalition, the National Coalition of 100 Black Women Incorporated is an advocacy organization that promotes leadership development and gender equity in the areas of health, education, and economic empowerment for Black women and girls. And this weekend, we will host a hybrid 35th annual Madam C.J. Walker Awards Luncheon and Economic Empowerment Network event, which is sold out. So thank you very, very much for the opportunity to be a member of the coalition, and I look forward to the work we will all do together ahead. And finally, Mr. President, I wanted to thank you and all of our colleagues for unanimously passing Resolution 210696, calling on our United States Congress to pass the Build Back Better Act. I wanted to invite everyone to the press conference with Conservation Voters of PA today at 12:15 on the north side of City Hall to support the passage of the Build Back Better Act. This act is not only crucial to addressing climate change, but also to prioritizing good-paying union jobs. This act will also prioritize the investments we need to make our aging infrastructure and preparing our city to be a cleaner and greener place. So thank you very, very much, Mr. President, and thank you, colleagues, for your indulgence.
Thank you, Councilwoman, and thank you for your continued awesome work on a very, very significant, important matter. Really appreciate it. Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President, and good morning, colleagues. Good morning to the listening public. I just want to take a moment to first and foremost thank my colleague, Councilmember Johnson, for partnering together and being in South Philadelphia the last couple of days to promote Peace Not Guns through the lens of athletics. I'm looking forward to continuing to working with Councilmember Johnson and other community leaders, the Ralph Brooks Basketball League, as well as the All City Classic, to continue to, and other organizations across the city of Philadelphia, to continue to provide quality programming, great experiences, mentorship, and tangible examples of folks who look like our young people and come from where they come from, but have decided to make positive decisions with their lives. So thank you, Council Member. I look forward to working with you. I also just briefly want to thank the members of the Public Safety Committee, as well as other support groups out there who helped us with a long process of getting our driving equality bill passed out of committee yesterday. I want to also thank the administration and the managing director's office, as well as our Commissioner Outlaw, for your support throughout the course of the process. I really appreciate everyone reaching out, and I really appreciate where we're going with this bill. We're going to continue to listen to the public. We're going to continue to listen to other legislators, and we want to do this in a way where we make sure we get it right. So I want to just say thank you to all parties above, and thank you, Council President, for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for your awesome work, particularly work around our young people. It's so, so important. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. And again, thank you, Prez and colleagues, for your prayers, your cards, your texts, your thoughts and reflections. It's meant the world to my family. I want to say, though, that during this process, it was an arduous task to get my son transferred into a hospital that focused on heart and lung transplants and things like that. In that process, when we were trying to get him into a hospital, we realized that there is a debate about vaccines. I am not vaccine shaming. I am not weighing in on whether you make that personal choice. I have mine. But what I will say is the unintended consequence upon people who may be going to the hospital for a different ailment when you do not respect the disease and respect that virus, is that hospital we were trying to get our boy in had 105% occupancy. So what does that mean? That 100% of the beds for ICU were already taken with a 5-person waiting list. That meant, sorry, Gary, we can't get you in right now. As we move and move people through the system, maybe we can get you a bed. So when you see these reports about the overwhelming taxation of our hospital systems and people on ventilators, many of whom did not get vaccinated, understand that it has an unintended consequence on those who have other ailments. And be considerate of that burden that is put on the system. No, nobody walks around and get up in the morning and says, I'm going to contract COVID-19. I realize that. But if we can take a step to prevent it, if we can keep that hospital system open so that a kid that gets hit by a car, in the case of Councilman Thomas's dangerous intersection, has a bed, can be cared for with the systems of health systems that we have in place. That's what it's all about. So I want to share that and let you know that these decisions aren't political. Doesn't matter whether you are a Republican or a Democrat. That virus will hit your butt, no matter what your party affiliation is. And that when we don't do something, we actually do something. And so with that, make your choices. But I've made mine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. We love the country we live in. We have the ability to make a personal choice, but when that personal choice impacts others in a negative way, it does have real implications. Thank you. And again, we're here for you, sir, every day of the week. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Quinona Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. I won't be so nice as the councilman. Outside of folks with religious and medical reasons, I'm gonna shame everybody else because I think that is unacceptable. I represent a district with a lot of under-vaccinated populations, a children's hospital, St. Christopher's Hospital, whose positivity rate is always 30% of families and children being treated at the hospital. So this crisis is by no means over and it should be taken seriously. But I did want to just thank all of my colleagues who have in some way or another participated or will be participating in the many Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations throughout this month. And as you know, we always tend to stretch that as much as possible. And in particular this week, which is the Puerto Rican week. This afternoon, we'll have a press conference. We had to make a very difficult decision to cancel the parade, in part because, as many of you know, we have thousands of children who participate, and the logistics around busing them and getting them to the parkway was a challenge, in addition to maintaining and being able to provide the COVID recommendations of events over 1,000 people, being mindful of that. We made a decision to cancel it. And of course, the Boricua Fest event that I sponsored thereafter as a public safety measure, but look forward to next year, which will be the 60th anniversary. So Che, hold on to that guayabera. You can come back next year and celebrate with us. But we will be having a smaller version of the flag raising tomorrow at 11 o'clock. We ask folks to come. We will be following COVID restrictions. Unfortunately, we will not have that robust lunch. I know everybody gonna beat me up, including security guards and everybody. Ms. Sharon Vaughn, I'm gonna name names, and others, but we look forward to being able to do our Three Kings celebration, and I promise we will double up on all the food that we normally provide. But I want to thank all of you. Right after the flag raising, I want to thank Councilman David O, who sponsors the Latino Book Fair. This is, I think, the second or third year he's doing it. So folks have where else to celebrate if you want to just make it a day of Friday. Saturday, tonight is the Puerto Rican Mass celebration at the Cathedral, and I will be joining with civic leaders there. And Saturday at Spruce Harbor Park, there will be, again, a smaller version of a Hispanic festival. So I want to thank all of my colleagues for their support and attending some of these events, and for always supporting these events and the administration. We want to be responsible. This is serious, and we have a lot of folks who don't believe in science and they want to risk their personal situations, but as Councilman Jones personally experienced, the ripple effects are deadly and serious. And so I thank all of you, and hope to see you tomorrow briefly for our flag raising. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you. People are going to miss that awesome food. Tell you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President, and you are right. I also wanted to, Council Member Sanchez, when you talked about us missing that food, I want our colleagues to know I'm looking forward to potluck whenever we can ever get back, because it was nice to have something that you all made, and that's when I learned that Councilmember Jones could burn. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Also wanted to just say welcome, Mr. President, to our colleague, Councilmember Catherine Gilmore Richardson, and all of our new sisters in the coalition of 100 Black women. We know you all will roll up your sleeves and get to work. And so congratulations to you. Also want to say this Sunday, past Sunday, I had the opportunity to attend a game of the Mount Airy baseball fall ball. And we were at Pleasant Playground. And I'm a little embarrassed to say, Mr. President, and to all of our colleagues who participate in Sports Talk, that we were sitting there and, we're watching a game. Someone stole, someone walked, and all of it was going on at one time. And Sherelle Parker didn't know what was happening. But one of the parents who was sitting on the front row was very patient and turned around and said, "This is what happened," told me who stole and what happened. And at that time, I looked around at the coaches and all of the parents who were there. I thought about the Raiders, the Ivy Hill Saints, the Aztecs. I ran club and track for the Philadelphia Flames. We used to have a team. I'm going back. UAGTC we used to have our meets on Saturdays at Gratz outside. And Philadelphia Express was the team. And we would wait for this team called the QB Gazelles, the Queen Bee Gazelles from New York, to come in because we couldn't wait to compete against them. And Mr. President, I wanted us to take this opportunity to say a special thank you to all of the coaches who dedicate their time and energy during the week. We're dealing with a lot now with gun violence, but those organizations are essential from a prevention perspective. And I want to, send a message to the administration that as we wait to see who the organizations are who are receiving that funding, we're going to make sure we're paying attention to see if those organizations who are doing that preventive work are included in this process, because if they weren't doing what they are doing, that number would be even higher. I know it's hard to imagine, but it would be even higher than it is right now. Finally, to Principal Majewski and my students at Hill Freeman World Academy, listen, we go a long way back. I forgot who sang that song, and we were proud to fight for you to get there, Mr. President. When we lost our military academy to the 5th District in North Philadelphia, when it moved, we lost. So then we were fighting real hard to get some kind of magnet school there. Councilmember Green, you know what a great school. Councilmember Brooks, you know what a great school that Hill Freeman World Academy is. And I wanted to say to you, I made a commitment that I am going to lip sync this entire song on video that you've created, and I'm going to send it to you. But if you all laugh at me one time and start sharing that video, I'm coming for each and every one of you, grades 9 through 12. I just had to say it for the record. So if y'all hear anything, Sherelle Parker said it. Can't wait to get with you, Hill Freeman World Academy. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Councilwoman. Can't wait to see that video. I promise we won't laugh. As they say, psych. Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you so much. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. Council President and colleagues, there was a quote by Dr. King that said, what impacts one directly impacts all of us indirectly because we're all a part of mankind. And, when I sat back this week and I saw how the Haitian migrants were treated down in Texas, really just taking me back to how far we haven't come as a country. To see Texas Rangers on horses with whips in their hand, whipping migrants who are doing nothing but trying to find a path to freedom, like so many other groups of people have done, sent a chilling vibe, not only through my body, but also as I've been recognizing and talking to different individuals throughout this country. And so hopefully the Biden administration can do a better job in addressing this particular issue, because the same way that we have offered to bring thousands of Afghans to America to some level of freedom to address their issue, which is nothing wrong with that at all, we should have that same level of empathy and support for those Haitian migrants that are just trying to find a better path to improve the quality of their lives. And so I wanted to acknowledge that because it's been on my mind all this week. Also, tomorrow we'll be having a call for justice, not call to action, but a call for justice for family members who have lost loved ones to gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. It'll be in partnership with the Peace Not Guns faith-based coalition to make sure we're supporting those mothers, those fathers, those brothers, those sisters, those aunts and uncles and children who have lost loved ones to senseless gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. So as we advocate for funding for community-based organizations, as we address issues around police reform, I want to also make sure we are highlighting and making sure those individuals who are severely impacted by the close to 400 homicides that we've seen thus far this year, and the last 500 homicides we saw last year, those are the people who are day in and day out suffering from trauma, from losing a loved one to senseless gun violence. And so we will be having not a call to action, but a call for justice to make sure we're staying on the case and solving cold homicide cases. We're staying on the case and making sure we're bringing those family members justice by making sure those individuals who are carrying the gun and shooting up our neighborhood are properly prosecuted, and making sure overall the family members who have lost their loved ones have the type of support that they need so they can go on and carry their lives. And so that'll be 3 p.m. tomorrow, City Hall, North East Apron. Thank you very much, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you for your continuing work on this very, very challenging issue. We really appreciate it. That appears to be all of the speeches on behalf of the minority and the majority. With that, we'll now recognize Councilman Jones for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, September 30th, 2021, 10 a.m.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably seconded that council stand adjourned until Thursday, September 30th, 2021, 10 a.m. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you all very much. Appreciate the work you do for the citizens of the city of Philadelphia. Thank you.